Phones buzzing, emails pinging, 24/7 news cycles, endless scrolling, constant talking, proving, explaining. Man, it's exhausting, isn't it? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We are intentionally stepping away from all of that chaotic noise to look at something that's becoming incredibly rare. We're going to dive deep into the psychology of people who truly respect quiet. Let's explore why choosing not to speak might actually be the most powerful secret trait a human can develop. You know, it's a really fascinating paradox. Have you ever been in a room and noticed how the quietest person there is almost always the one everyone is secretly paying attention to? Think about it. It's never the loud guy desperately trying to dominate the conversation who holds the real power. It's the person who can just sit there, completely comfortable, without feeling this burning need to constantly post, talk, or over-explain themselves. There is a massive psychological weight to that kind of presence. And we're going to break down exactly why rare traits like this naturally command so much value. So why exactly is silence so incredibly rare these days? Well, honestly, it's because most people are absolutely terrified of it. The second a conversation gets quiet, what do? We completely panic and rush to fill the gap. We rely on all these mental escapes, blasting music, endless doom scrolling, rambling on, or just checking a constant barrage of notifications. Psychologists tell us that we use all this constant noise as a distraction. It's an escape hatch. Because when it's silent, we're actually forced to face our uncomfortable emotions and deal with ourselves. But those people who respect silence, they aren't running from their own minds. And the crazy thing is, the benefits of just sitting with your thoughts, they are quite literally hardwired into our biology. When you look at the neuroscience of it all, silence isn't just empty, dead space. For self-awareness, it actively fires up the brain areas linked to deep self-reflection. For memory, it acts like a giant reboot button, allowing the brain to completely reset and reorganize itself. And for emotional processing, it gives you that much-needed breathing room to actually process what you're feeling. So people who embrace silence are basically giving their brains the exact optimal environment to function at their absolute peak. Because their brains get that essential reboot, calm people naturally just seem wiser. Why? Well, they're spending way more time observing than instantly reacting. And this leads to an absolute superpower, high social awareness. It's the psychological ability to pick up on tiny details that everyone else completely misses. We're talking tone changes, subtle body language, fake smiles, hidden tension in the room, all simply because they choose to sit back and observe instead of speaking. Look, the loudest person in the room is almost always learning the least, right? Because all that talking prevents any real listening. When you just stop trying to constantly be heard, quiet observation becomes your greatest tool. Now hold on, we do need to make a really important distinction here, because not all silence is created equal. There is a massive difference between fearful silence and confident silence. Fearful silence, that's driven entirely by anxiety. It's when you're quiet just because you're insecure or too afraid to speak up. But confident silence, that comes from a place of deep, unshakable control. A confident person just doesn't feel the need to chase everyone's validation or get dragged into arguing over every single little opinion. They're silent because they are completely secure. And let me tell you, that creates an incredible sense of mystery and depth. That core security leads to a really profound realization about how we interact with the entire world. There's a famous quote that goes, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space." Wow. Did you feel that? In a world where we are constantly, relentlessly pressured to react the very second something happens, to a rude comment, a stressful email, a sudden disagreement, just recognizing and actually sitting in that psychological space, it completely changes your life. What you actually do in that tiny little space determines your entire level of emotional maturity. Most people live in this exhausting, constant state of emotional reaction, don't they? Impulsive people speak first, explode instantly, and then usually regret it 5 minutes later. But people who respect silence, they pause. They use that precious space to actually process their emotions instead of letting their emotions hijack them. And that pause, that is the literal definition of emotional intelligence. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. How does all of this apply when the pressure is truly on? How does silence magically increase your authority in high-stakes situations? Well, think about the most powerful leaders, elite interviewers, or top-tier negotiators you know. When things get incredibly heated or totally complicated, they never, ever rush to speak. They maintain absolute composure. And that rock-solid composure is exactly what creates this undeniable aura of authority. They end up controlling the entire emotional frame of the room.
without saying a word.
Let's actually break down the exact mechanics of how that authority works in real life. It's like a 3-step playbook. Step 1, silence naturally creates tension. Step 2, the other person absolutely hates that tension, so they rush to fill the gap by talking. Step 3, while they're rambling just to escape the awkwardness, they totally overshare and reveal their insecurities, weaknesses, and hidden intentions. This is literally how experienced negotiators weaponize silence. They use it like a magnet to pull vital information right out of uncomfortable people. It all really just comes down to basic psychology and, honestly, economics. Scarcity creates value, right? Well, silence makes your words scarce. Think of your words as a currency. If someone is just talking nonstop, blabbering away, they're inflating their own currency. Their words lose value, and eventually, everyone just tunes them out. But when a normally calm, quiet person finally decides to speak up, boom, everyone instantly pays attention. Their words carry immense weight simply because they're rare. But stepping back from just the power and authority aspect for a second, there's a fundamental biological need for quiet. Our human nervous system was literally never biologically designed to handle 24/7 noise, opinions, and constant stimulation. Modern life is just completely mentally exhausting. We are constantly scrolling, constantly comparing ourselves, constantly getting bombarded from all sides. We desperately need a break from that input just to survive. That crucial break, that's what psychologists call psychological recovery. Intentional silence is incredibly restorative. It literally lowers your stress hormones, it wipes out mental fatigue, it kicks your creativity into high gear, and it drastically grows your internal clarity. This is exactly why some of history's absolute greatest thinkers actively hunted for silence. And they didn't isolate themselves because they were grumpy or hated people. No, they did it because removing all that external noise is the only way to sharpen your internal clarity. When the noise finally stops, your mind finally has the room to breathe and think. And here is a huge bonus. This internal clarity acts as the ultimate form of self-defense. Why are people who respect silence so much harder to manipulate? Well, think about how manipulators actually operate. They rely 100% on provoking quick, careless, highly emotional reactions from you. They want to trigger you, pressure you, and speed up the conversation to force you into making a sloppy mistake. But a calm person, they completely wreck that tactic. Manipulators use emotional hijacking. They want to flood the interaction with high, chaotic emotion. But silent individuals create what we call rational distance. By simply slowing the whole interaction down and refusing to instantly snap back, they create this emotional buffer zone that keeps their rational, logical brain fully active. You literally cannot manipulate someone who simply refuses to be emotionally rushed. It's impossible. So I think it's time we dismantle a pretty massive societal myth right now. We're always taught that power has to look loud, aggressive, dominant, and totally attention-seeking. But come on, a lion doesn't need to walk around the jungle constantly announcing that it's a lion, right? Real strength and deep confidence are usually remarkably quiet. People who respect silence just know their own value without needing a constant drip of approval from everyone else in the room. Let's be real, insecurity is loud, but true confidence is incredibly quiet. When you finally let go of that exhausting need for external validation, you develop this amazing toolkit of inner stability. Embracing silence gives you improved decision-making, way better relationships, sharpened focus, serious emotional regulation, and deep self-awareness. These aren't just buzzwords. These are tangible, everyday benefits that will totally change how you operate in the real world. Silence basically teaches you self-mastery. And remember, the person who controls their emotions ultimately controls their entire life. So I want to leave you with some super practical advice for your everyday life. Not every single situation deserves your words. The very next time you feel heavily pressured to over-explain yourself, or you get the urge to quickly snap back at a rude comment, or you just want to desperately prove you're right in some meaningless argument, just remember to pause. Stay completely calm, stay observant, because sometimes the absolute strongest and most protective response you can possibly make is to just let silence do the talking for you. Because ultimately, people who truly respect silence understand one totally undeniable truth. Noise might attract attention, sure, but silence earns respect. So ask yourself, the very next time the room goes uncomfortably quiet, are you brave enough to just let the silence speak for you? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this helps you find a little more power in the pause.